In Australia, good evening America, and welcome to everyone across the planet. This is Insight Intelligence with Mario Bekes, and Mario is actually in Dublin. But before I ask him a bit about why he's in Dublin, here's what you need
Dubai.
to know. Sorry, Dubai. We were just talking about Dublin. Oh my
That's okay.
goodness. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Seriousness. If you're listening on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, don't forget that Hannah is ready, waiting, and listening to provide you with the connection, comments, and the links to anything we talk about today. And as we do each and every week, we need to acknowledge the important part that our Indigenous ancestors have played in the development of Australia. And I want to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugoslavia language region, Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, and pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and all past and present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Now, just a reminder that this is a show series, and we have been talking extensively about intelligence and how that works in the public and private sector. Now, if you want to catch up on any of the shows that you've missed, and we've captured some amazing content and amazing conversations from surveillance to forensic investigation and anything in between. And this is the 7th show with Mr. Mario Bekes, the CEO and owner of Insight Intelligence. Now, Mario, you might remember, grew up in Communist Croatia. And today we talk to Mario from Dubai on the return from his trip to Europe. Now, Mario, I'm welcome back to the show. It seems like forever since we've had a chance to spend time together, and
Indeed, Toni,
I've
indeed.
missed talking to you. I love these shows. I love the wisdom and knowledge that you freely share with our audience. But I'd really love to know if you can share with us where you've been and what you've been doing in the last 10 days. A bit of a whirlwind tour for you.
Yes. Well, Toni, thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to all listeners and the viewers of this great show. As Tony says, feel free to visit her YouTube channel. There's all episodes, not just about me, but all other entrepreneurs as well who share their wisdom and the tips. I'd like to say as well, thank you to your crew, TJ, and everybody else who is now supporting this transmission. And as well, I'd like to say good morning from Dubai to everybody. I left Australia on the 9th. Today it's I think 18th or whatever it is. It's like looks like I have feeling. I just need to check. It's a 20th. I apologize, 20th. So I left Australia on the 9th, and I have feeling I'm away from Sydney for at least a month. I don't know why. The journey
Yeah.
was a truly good for several reasons. Number one, it's um, flying out of Australia was an adventure, right? Because you're requiring all these documents and everything else. But then as well, meeting other people in Eastern Europe. That was my first
Yeah.
stop. So I went there to meet my clients and deliver the new program as well required for the new. As we know, the world is changing and everything changing around us, and
Mm.
it's becoming difficult to grasp what's the next things going to happen across the globe, and everybody want to capture the essence of information.
Mm.
Then I'm back in Dubai to deliver the training here last couple of days, and this is a really something unique. Come from the rainy, cold Australia, suddenly coming to the hot spring. It's very warm, Tony.
Yes.
Yeah, and then this Sunday going to Singapore to see clients there, and then Manila and back to Sydney on 30th, which again it's 21 days around the globe,
Mm.
literally around the globe. But it
Mm.
is it is beautiful to see how the people live post COVID. We can see that the economy is moving forward. Everybody wants to do business. Uh, Tourism, I can't say nothing because I'm everywhere I go, I feel like a tourist, but
Mm.
we can see the world is changing, and everybody wants to do the business. Everybody wants to new avenues to open, to explore. There's new technologies, there's new ways of how to deal in a business, and of course, there's the biggest um, need that's what it is, certainty in business. Everybody wants to looking for the partners to be certain they're going to continue. So yeah, it's a very challenging, but it's a beautiful to be in Dubai. So thank you, Tony, for asking.
Mario, I'm just curious before we get on with the show about the atmosphere and the feeling in Europe at the moment. We all know that the war in Ukraine is continuing, and I'm just, it's possibly hard to reflect, but from your short stay there, how are people feeling? Like, is this causing, we know that it's causing shortages and difficulty for people and business. What was your sense, Mario?
General feeling of the populace of the citizens across the Europe, it is that the war against Russia and Ukraine is something which is shaking to the core everybody. It's a third month,
Yeah.
and we can see, like, we can see that it's a lot of effort being done by European Union and the countries, particularly those neighboring with the Ukraine, to support Ukraine fight for democracy and against oppression and Russian invasion. But that being said, as well, I noticed that, and everybody was the mood amongst people are changing. Maybe it's not directly connected with Ukraine,
Yeah.
but inflation, and it's huge. It's cost of living. It's increased rapidly.
Yeah.
So people are literally having that difficulties to understand, how they're gonna wait for the winter. In terms of, you can see tourism, there is no big destinations announced, and there's no traveling overseas. There's a lot of
Yeah.
uncertainty. There is a lot of um, money shortage, basically, right? That's what it is,
Yes.
money shortage. So like a COVID is like disappeared, right? Everything
Yes.
about COVID disappeared. But as I said, like, it is the general feeling, it's like the life become very expensive, very, very
Yes.
expensive.
So
And
it's not
that's what the
just
biggest,
us in Australia experiencing that whole cost of living. It's actually the globe that's kind of suffering.
yeah. And like particularly now in Dubai, it's a different cup of tea. They're
Mm.
doing everything to attract people. They're doing everything to open society to the world comes to them. I recently just even wrote an article because I was having discussion last week when I was in Dubai before I head into Europe. I had a meeting with one of the very, very big businessmen here, and
Yeah.
they explained to me how they dealt with the pandemic and post-pandemic, and why they open, and why Expo was very important for them, even didn't create a lot of money as expected. So
Mm.
they're still pushing this forward to be open society. But Tony, speaking in general, I can see the shortages everywhere, particularly in items, food items.
Yeah.
You can see that there is a shortage. So
Oh, it's a bit sad, isn't it? I was curious when I knew you were traveling to see what your, because as we said, I'll be traveling soon, and I was just
yeah.
curious to see what was going on in the world. So that said, the reason why you're traveling at the moment is to deliver some of your world class courses and training.
That's right. Yes.
And our talk this week is about the Insight Intelligence Institute and the courses and training they offer. And I know that you're really proud of this institute, and rightly so, because you deliver some of the best courses around within the intelligent realm. And the first of those that we want to talk about today is strategic interviewing. And I wanted to talk about the importance of understanding and having education around strategic interviewing tactics and deception detection, because that's going to become more and more important, isn't it?
Indeed. Look, overall, we are witnessing a select. The world is shifting, and with the world shifting, the discipline as an investigation or any type of interrogation becomes very, very important, right? Interrogation for government sector, investigation for corporate sector. And we must understand, people love to throw these words: strategic, tactical, operational. So I just, for the illustration, I just like to explain in terms of business. If we look in the tactical is something which is a short term, something which is required a less investment, less force, less manpower to reach these details. So in those terms, I'll say like we're working on our local market. Operational intelligence and investigations, it's a different as well from tactical and strategic. It's a newer discipline. It's something the modern society invented. It's a bridge between tactical and operational. And like if you look in this is like you have the local battle tactical, then you have the interstate, like in Australia it's operational, which is again more investment, more manpower, and more long-lasting preparations, which cost as well. Then you have strategic. Strategic, it's always behind horizon, and that requires what's going to be if it's happened something, right? It's required a pre-mortem analysis, which basically requires to capture information now, and you looking at historical data and now informations to try to do decision making for the future, for the decision key makers. And that's become very, very difficult, particularly in the COVID we saw because of the lockdowns. And so when you look in all these three disciplines, it's going from the minimum cost to the medium cost to the high cost. Same goes in investigations. Tactical intelligence as well applies for your local market, your state market. Then you have this operational intelligence, which like in Australia can cover our entire Australia as a state. You have strategic intelligence, which require that you are bringing your company into the world market on a notice, when you make a decision. In 6 months' time, I'm going to come to Dubai. What's going to happen in 6 months' time in Dubai? And that's where we are an institute running these courses to understand how to utilize information on a tactical, operational, and strategic level. So decision making can be done most appropriately. And intelligence, people talk about intelligence, they're talking about espionage. Espionage is one form of human intelligence, but intelligence, gathering intelligence, it's a 24/7 job for every company to capture information which is relating to their decision, key decision making. And I can't say who's doing the key decision making in any company, but as long as they have the structure, they have the goal, key objective, which is most important, was the key objective in corporations. And based on that key objective, tailoring approaches in tactical, operational, and strategic intelligence.
Fantastic. Mario, bearing in mind that difference that we've just talked about between strategic and tactical, I want to talk a little bit about interrogation versus questioning, because they're quite different, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Look, there's the questioning interrogation can put in one bag, because this is usually they have the negative connotations. Interrogations is being done more or less by government sector. And interrogation allows the different methods in questioning somebody. While in corporate world, you cannot do this. You need to do all hands on deck, utilizing every possible avenue, because we must understand police or any intelligence agency, they have the different ways of collecting the information, facts, evidence, and anything else. While in corporate world, it's a streamline. You know what I mean? It's a more how to say,
there's a process
work. Volunteering work, which is satisfying all the legal framework of any state in Australia or across the globe, particularly in the US or England, which is heavily regulated bodies. So when you have the interrogations, people have the the old-fashionable, the phone book, and the lights and the bashing. I don't say this has not been done in the past. I don't say, when I was
But we
working,
hope it doesn't happen too much today.
no, no, no,
Obviously, it's
no.
gonna, isn't it, Mario? Like, there's
Mm,
not really. It's gonna happen.
yeah. Look, and in like when you come to the stage, uh, in corporate investigations, when you're questioning somebody, it is very important that you have awesome preparations. A part of operational work, of investigative work, right? What you're gonna collect, what evidence you have, what facts you collect, supported, and everything else. It is a scene preparation for interviewing.
Mm.
And it's a lot of psychology behind this. While in
Yes.
police, or let's just say intelligence agencies, interrogation, particularly one of the methods, it's called a read, which FBI developed in 80s. And
Mm.
it's basically they question you not actively, but also more proactively they're pushing you into admission, right? Where they have
Yeah.
we have team of people they inside, even psychologists who playing and capturing and in essence, when we talk about that, people can Google it, read REID, but the thing is, it's a technique that has been coached, and they putting people into submission, voluntarily to submission that even don't know, and that's
Yeah.
interrogation. So you sit in one room, and yeah, of course you will
Yes.
present with evidence. And in corporate world, you cannot do this. It
Yes.
is more psychological preparation for the interviewing rather than uh, utilizing any methods, invasive methods, right, or more active methods. Because when you have the client who you're interviewing or the personal interest in corporate world,
Mm.
climate, you need to prepare the interviewing scene, and that's what we're coaching them. Because when you have somebody do claims investigation, and you can't utilize interrogative methods into apply
Yeah.
questioning methods,
Yeah.
which is basically based on a variety type of questions. You have open questions, closed questions, leading questions, final questions, and everything else. And then, but it's like a scene. It's a very most important thing because it tries to make a person as comfortable as possible, but as well a way that this is the investigation, and whatever they say, it's going to go in report. And
Mm.
that is very important to when we're coaching some of our clients. Interrogations, it's something where you're applying the active pressure on somebody
Mm-hmm.
by utilizing positive and negative aspects of what's it called, of environment. Because what's the positive environment in corporate investigation? You're interviewing somebody in their office.
Yes.
When the interrogation, you're
It's
going either in
somewhere
police station.
nasty.
Yeah, no, don't leave that to them. But you go into places where you don't feel comfortable, where you feel isolated,
Yeah.
and of course, you must take in consideration that's very important to understand. When the government is doing investigation, they're doing everything to the point when they call you in, and when they call you in, they know how they're gonna.
Ah.
They know
Very
how to apply
different.
that I'll call the wealth abundance of information they have, generally speaking,
Yeah.
to conclude the case. And sometimes that does involve, I'll give an example, Tony.
Yes,
Interrogation
please.
necessarily doesn't need to mean to be the phone book, even that's in the movies depicted very well.
Yeah.
But I do remember when I started my career, I had great professors, and they will leave the person in interrogation room for, let's say, 6, 7, 10 hours. I'm not sure what the legal frame it is in Australia or across the globe, every country, how long you can leave
Leave the
somebody.
person in a room. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I remember my professor will come with some sandwich and the drink, what I mean, and then he's left home
Yeah.
and he was eating. I was like, why will he eat in front of the accused person? I mean, he's a suspect. And the
Yeah.
person will he'll be hungry. He doesn't work 100%. One in 5 will work, and then he say, you want a sandwich? And then he start having that conversation. The person was so
Yes.
hungry, so thirsty that he will open. So depriving them those things. And as you know, the Guantanamo Bay was one of the great examples of
Yes.
the wrong interrogations. That was something which was like, was going beyond anybody wild imagination. But that was a tough interrogations. We don't train because that's not something you won't apply, because people under pressure, under the privation of the day senses, they will have the reasons to admit, just to
Yeah,
avoid. Yeah,
it
please.
brings up that this is fresh in my mind because I've just watched a documentary around wrongful conviction based on a coerced confession, and it sort of I have to say that I'm thinking, oh, Mario would understand why this works, and it is around that deprivation of liberty, coercive questioning, uh, causing that person to think the only way that I'm going to get out of this horrible little room is if I
Mm.
confess to something, whether it's true or not. And at that point in time, they're not actually considering the bigger picture, they just want to get out of the room.
That's correct, Tony. Look, in communism, that was the one thing, and I was educating communism. That was the one thing. It was submission to till admission, and it was a lot of involved unethical ways of questioning
Yeah.
people. In corporate world, you cannot do this. Everybody in corporate world understands that we are just the businesses and we are not the governments. Governments
Yes.
working in two levels: protect from external enemies, internal enemies, crime, and everything else, which is against national security. So there's a multi-layer cake government wants. Corporations, they want to protect themselves internally, externally against fraud, crime,
Definitely.
criminal activities, and potential activities of their competitors.
Mm.
And there is uh, the biggest decision every corporation needs to make. It's how to protect their own interests and
Mm.
how to actually protect their own information. But it's not necessarily that's going to happen. That's the reason why they called us, either to
Yes.
investigate or to protect that information. I like to, you say deception. People talk about deception um, like it's a game. It's not a game. It's a cat and mouse game. So I will just
Ah.
yeah. So like deception, it's hiding the true intent of your own actions, and deception requires two more elements. One thing it is that you speak the truth 90%, which a person does. So I'll give you an
Yes.
example. Uh, Von Bismarck in 1850 was a young parliamentarian in Germany, and he wanted to wage the war. He comes from a Prussian
Mm.
family. It's a true story, of course. It's a event
Yeah.
being elaborated so very well. And he wanted to wage the war because he'd been humiliated by Austrian army and the country being divided and everything else. And on a night of the eve day in parliament, he gave a different speech. He gave the speech that he wants to peace, he wants to prosperity of the Prussian people and
Mm-hmm.
country and everything else. But everybody expected from him to deliver the speech to war because everybody's ready for the war. But what he realized that Prussia is not ready for the
Ah.
war, they stayed behind. So like he understood that the Prussian aristocracy and the military and the state, they are so much backwards go against the modern enemy. So you compare
Mm.
this with the corporations. So what he delivered a speech, and the king, he didn't believe him. But what he asked him, if you want a peace, you're not gonna beat the minister of defense. Anyway, needless to say, several years
Yeah.
later, Bismarck becomes one of the most recognized statements, and he's the one who applied deception so well. He deceived everybody in Prussian parliament, deceived the king, who didn't believe him. But at the end, he took the time to wage the war against Austria, and then he became a dominant power, like the unification of Germany
Yes.
and everything else. Second, so you hide your intent. You talk the truth. I mean, you want the prosperity. He was talking prosperity. He was talking about being abundant country. That
Yes.
they had no army to wage the war, which was true. But 10% of his intent has been hidden because he knew that he needs a time to launch his quest. He needs to become
Whoa.
much more powerful. So anyway, second one, it's a smoke screen. and the smoke screen is usually being delivered in a different manner. So deception is a very dangerous game, and this is go in the world of intelligence. Deception is not leave to be investigated; it needs to be analyzed, and it requires several professionals around me to deliver this, to recognize what deception it is, and only deception you can recognize it is that you analyzing historical data, current data, and then doing this, what I say, pre-mortem analysis of the person, of the event, and what informations you can utilize and how to find these informations. And again, Toni, you and I, we're just the business people, we're not the governments.
Yes.
Even when I was working in government, I didn't know where this information is coming from. There's no necessity. In corporations, you already know the structure. This guy does this lady does this. In government, you don't know where the information is coming from, and they've been just forwarded to the to required designated area, right? I'll call it. So, like intelligence services will deliver to police and vice versa.
Yes.
In corporations, it's very important to understand what is your key objective. When you have the key objective, you need to have the intelligence. What is intelligence? It's going to be tactical, operational, strategic intelligence. Then its next element it is to prepare the ratio of your commitment in is a manpower, is a money, or it's tools. What you're going to commit to reach your key objective. Fourth element it is the time and date of the execution of your idea. So it's going to be tactical level. It's going to be quick something. It's going to be operational mid-term or the strategic on a long run beyond horizon. So it's very important, as I say, while you're planning your some things, most of corporations, particularly US companies, they're using deceptive methods, very deceptive methods. Speaking 90% of truth, while 10% true intent has been hidden. And a lot of people like to say, I know how to spot. Even I don't know everything, Toni. Like, takes the time, takes the event, takes the trigger to you understand what is going on. And that's what we're teaching the people. Sometimes deception, it is the losing the war. And the fifth most important element, it is a timetable of delivering your key objective to reach your key objectives. So that's what we're teaching people. That's what we're teaching companies. That plan, what is your key objective? What is your intelligence? How do you going to ratio manpower, techniques, and everything else, and go down to the list, and then you're practicing this till the perfection that your team already knows, and they spot something anomalies by collecting the data information from the market. You can place yourself on the market and reply or response to your competitor. When it comes to investigations, it's the same process, but as well, you need to understand intelligence. You need to understand what intelligence you're gonna utilize, how to collect, how to analyze, how to disseminate and present. That's the very important part.
Yeah. Mario, one of the other courses that Insight Intelligence Institute is famous for is around surveillance. And when I was looking at this course in particular, I saw that it distinguished between a few elements of surveillance, that being urban. So we've already talked about, the tactical surveillance before, but the bit that I found interesting was the difference between urban area surveillance and rural area surveillance. Can you tell the audience about that?
Absolutely, Toni. Look, we don't do respect with everybody. We investigate through surveillance. Not every person lives in city.
That's right.
In city, it's easier to blend. It's easy to blend. It's a variety of the people. And surveillance operatives are very skilled in this. They already know themselves. If you know yourselves, as Sun Tzu says in his book Art of War, and you know enemy, no question asked, you're gonna win. But in rural surveillance is different because there is not many investigators to be engaging in rural areas, and preparation needs to be to the smallest details. It's a preparation. It's a matter of victories. So sometimes we have the surveillances in areas where it's like no more than 500 people, and you can understand, like when somebody comes, pop in and you want to stay around, people noticing this.
Yes.
So there's a different elements and technologies we utilizing when it comes to the rural area, and the people, as I say. As I mentioned earlier, in urban area, it's easier to hide and people are behaving differently. When you're in rural area,
Yes.
people are more community oriented. Maybe they
And
hate
they
each other, maybe we hate
notice.
each other. Yeah, exactly. But if I know that somebody's coming against you, like, we're going to take our forks and knives and chase that person,
Yeah.
So rural surveillance requires a different set of skills. It requires a lot of planning and a lot of uh, precise work because there's not much place to hide. There's not many places to you infiltrate or to you position yourself in a way as you can do in the city, so you can commit surveillance. So this is something what we train. It's a camouflaging. That's a number one. It's a lot of waiting. It's a lot of waiting in areas which we usually don't doing.
How do you stay
Uh,
awake? Like
well,
that's always perplexed me. If you've got a person of interest under surveillance, you've effectively got to watch them 24/7. Obviously, you can sleep when they sleep, but there's still a long period of time that you've got to keep them under surveillance. And I'm
yeah, but
like,
so that's
yeah,
what it says. Preparation is a mother of all
yes,
victories, and you
yes,
can't expect that some of my investors gonna be awake like 7 days, right? That doesn't work,
yes, yeah,
So it's playing for 24 to 72 hours mostly, and as I say, behavior of somebody in smaller places, 500 people, 5,000 people, cities or small cities, or it's a community it's community based environment, and people are very aware of any new faces. That's number one. Secondly, um, when you are working in rural area, it's a communication. It's one of the biggest problems. Communication between us,
yeah,
investigator, uh, distance, technical issues and everything else. So this is the key areas we're focusing in our preparations. How we're gonna meet uh, safety requirements for our investigator to conduct the job. Like I was in military, you must do everything and have the backup of the backup that that operations are going to run smoothly. Secondly, there is no local police stations in small cities, right? So you can't go there and inform them that you're going to do surveillance. So you need to be very careful
yeah,
what you're doing. So so planning is a one aspect of our education. Why would you do in rural area? How to analyze rural area? You need to look and understand what's happening at the rural area. So it's not just you go take a surveillance. You must analyze the place, the people, surrounding areas, you know, uh, geospatial positioning. How you gonna be there,
yeah,
how long, what do you need, uh, almost as supplements,
yeah,
water, food, and all these things. So, and then it's come to technology. Technology is not the same like in urban area, where we have the people, our operatives, just wear the glasses with the camera, carrying with the camera, mobile phone,
I
and
was
all these
gonna
things.
ask you that, Mario, and sorry I didn't put this in our
Mm,
preparation notes, but
okay.
when I was thinking about it this morning, I'm thinking, and what about drones in surveillance? You see the pictures of the tiny little mosquito-sized drones and etc., etc., etc. How true is that, and how much does technology play in helping with surveillance?
That's a good question, Tony. I truly believe that now technology does exist. We can't deny this, but it's not
Yes,
available for the public.
everyday people. I figured.
You and I, we can't get that little fly and
I know.
somewhere.
I can
But
only think of
that
fun things to do with that, but
yeah,
I can obviously see the potential for wrongdoing and evil with some of those things. But I'm assuming that eventually that they will make detection of fraud and crime a lot easier.
yes. And that's the reason why our institute it's fit that role. Knowledge is to be shared. Knowledge is to be utilized. There's a new emerging technologies. There's new emerging type of criminal activities coming across.
Yes, that's the
And
next thing, isn't it?
yes, so we must understand that I always in our conversations say this one thing. Regardless how much I learned in my past and even today about human intelligence or investigations, it's an ongoing education
Yeah.
because the criminals um, they're very skilled in creating in their imagination the tools. So they know what. So police has like a blanket solution, right? And intelligence and everything else. But criminals, they know what they're gonna do. This morning I opened my email and somebody really asked me like my details in England. I'm gonna get 10 million pounds, right?
Oh,
Now
yeah.
that's that's a millions of emails like this. But career criminals, they utilizing their imagination to create and develop systems and the tools for the next job. Now, if we have the fly like this, maybe some government organization do have. I don't
Yeah.
have. You don't have. In rural area, you can't do this. We always stipulated this back. We must work in a framework of acts and
And
legal
laws and
requirements.
legislation.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Police they can fly the drone. My company cannot fly the drone.
Fair
Now,
enough.
and but preparations and as I said, as again when you say the flies, I have the clients I'm who are worrying about those things, and I say like you worry about flies while
You've got
your publicly.
employees that might be defrauding you in a, you know.
That's correct. So like there's a technologies that Tony certainly which we ordinary people have no access, but I'm certainly convinced that. Mass surveillance is being conducted on all of us. Like I can see in
I
Dubai,
agree.
even in Dubai, like you have the cameras on every corner, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
you notice them if you look at them. And Tony, just think about when you talk about drones, how often when you walk in the streets, just look at people, observe the people. People when they walk, they tend to look down from their mobile phone or that
Yes.
face. But
Yeah.
try to see something just observe all our listeners, all viewers, and this is whether we are educating people. How often we lift our head up and look in the
And look up.
sky or
No.
the roofs, nothing.
Yeah.
And
No.
that's where the things are happening, right? And now I give you some hints, right? So people generally looking around themselves, right? Instead of
Looking up.
going neck up and above,
Ah.
and then you can notice things are changing. You can see, the sky, the trees, the roofs, but you can see things are being following you. Not the
Yeah.
flies, but there's been setups. There's been settings in variety of the streets and urban areas. In rural, you can't because again, rural area it's reason why it's a rural and you
Hard.
can't apply. So you must do these things
Yeah.
very short period of time, brief of time, you drive or pass by person being followed, under
Yeah.
surveillance, personal interest, or you're doing with technology which requires a safe distance, and that's what we're teaching people: what technology to use, how, when, how to position yourself, how to camouflage yourself, how to keep up the communications, and of course, how to avoid confrontations. And
Yes.
only way to learn this it is a true, proper, detailed work, meticulous work to understand environment, people, and position and possible threats, of course. So there's no SWOT analysis because this is something everyone
Yeah.
loves to use,
Yeah.
but there's a preparation skill and as like planning and execution. It's a very very important elements
Yeah.
what we're teaching people, and that's what we're teaching right now here as well, how to
Oh,
apply because
fantastic.
as again some of my clients they're conducting the work but they believe they're being followed, and I mean you ask him, well, what makes you impression? He said, like, look at the YouTube. I said, like, okay, that was in your meeting. Somebody brought a mobile phone and recorded it, right? So we need to teach them as well, not just how to prevent, not how to capture the person doing violence on them, because that's their job. Different settings, different countries have a different set of rules, and when they know they're being recorded secretly, when they report to police, they can, like a civil arrest. Police take it very seriously, particularly here. And but as well, we always give this step forward. That's how to train them, how to utilize this information or whatever this may happen for the future gains. And that's a counterintelligence. That's a strategic counterintelligence.
Yeah. Mario, one of the other courses that you teach is around forensic psychology and fraud, which again I just found fascinating. And I'm conscious of time, and I've got so much to ask you. But what does when you're teaching people about fraud? There's fraud profiling, i.e. the nature and frequency to which humans deceive each other. There's classifications of fraud, and the other wording that I liked when I was researching the course was the psychopathic fraudster. And so obviously that's the question I want to ask. What is a psychopathic fraudster?
Well, I want to be clear at the beginning. There's two parts of that course. One is a theory and practice about fraud itself, what is fraud it is, and how to investigate the fraud, which I run me personally. Second part, that fancy stuff, psychological approach and pathological, process. I'm truly honored that I can say that I had a great person, Dr. Debbie Kolaros. She was being hired by South African police, and she was being educated there by the very, very, very few experts in the world, and she was doing the psychological profiling based on geolocation of the serious murderers and fraudsters and and her knowledge is that one which people, of course, everyone loves to see my face, my bold face, but we must understand. We must understand Debbie has that set of skills which actually complement what we teaching our clients about fraud. It's actually, there's a lot of these signs. There's a lot of small activities in human behavior which you and I will never notice, honestly. And you believe I know everything? No, I don't, Toni. That's the reason why it's not embarrassing to ask for help in business, and particularly to learn something new.
Correct.
So what Debbie does is not Debbie, how to spot somebody's lying, she doesn't work that way, right? So it's a different approach. So the fraudster, when we believe we have the fraudster, when the fraud is investigating, we're doing psychoanalysis, again, not me, Dr. Debbie Kolaros, based on the surveillance tapes, based on that's where the surveillance fits as well. So it's not just following somebody just for the sake of following. It's like, oh my God, this person done this and that, you know what I mean? Like, and claim it's been approved. I'm taking a more scientific approach, and I'm very proud to say to my clients, this is where you're getting when you've been trained by us. You learn the theory, you learn the practice on the field, how to investigate. However, there's other elements in the fraud investigations, which I personally don't deliver, what Dr. Debbie Kolaros does. And that's a scientific approach as a professional psychologist, as a professional psychological profiler who sees the video, sees the person, or innocently interviewing this person, and then she knows what these clues, these micro clues to look for in behavior, and then she can say, this is what you look for, not just like, how to look somebody lies to me. And that's a perception psychology. When people say body language, oh, I hate you. No, it doesn't work that way. People see different ways and everything else. So that's the part where Dr. Debbie Kolaros runs this alongside with me. Yeah. And that's a fancy stuff. It's very interesting stuff, and people
Absolutely.
don't see the science. Yeah, like don't see the science as a great asset, rather than try to fulfill their childish dreams and talk about lies and everything else. But that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way how the Debbie does that part,
yeah.
and we're very successful this particularly because of her experience in South African police and across the globe, plus
Mm.
the new technologies and the modus operandi of investigative fraud from my end. Absolutely, it's a successful company.
Mario, we're talking about fraud, and I don't want you to give away company secrets, but when you're talking about fraud and human behavior,
Yeah.
I'm I'm wondering if there's elements of human behavior that are similar but unique, because human beings are unique, aren't they? So when you observe a little bit of behavior that would cause you to think that this person is doing something fraudulent, that little bit of behavior, that's the key similarity, but the way that that behavior plays out in individual human beings may be different.
We when it comes to the fraud is firstly it's something we don't know happen till don't happen.
Yeah.
Um, the fraud it's a very sophisticated way of manipulating environment, your employees, your employer, your peers, your
Mhm.
friends,
Mhm.
and this goes on. And always come back to that thing. We all have the desire for the something. The fraudsters usually have the money as a monetary reward and financial reward. And
Mm.
I said this when I was working that particular client. I always give the pride to myself in that case. The person was an employee of the year, not the month of the year. And when I asked, long story short, when I asked my client, I said like I would like to be scheduled for that person to leave the board for these couple of days. That person has no sick leave, has no holidays, nothing. I said like, well, at least we need to,
Mm.
you can't do it during the weekend because weekend is not transactions. We need to see the transactions
Mm.
happening.
Mm.
And again, then I have as well the different person who teach these things is forensic accounting, of course. And when the person he was eventually being literally forced out to take a holiday,
Yeah.
um, he was calling every day to see what's happening. It's like, who does this? I mean, and I was quite suspicious
Ooh.
that this person is that that person has very fraudulent activities against
Mm.
that client of mine, and you can prove nothing. The only you can prove the fraud. It's capturing and comparing the what's happening past with the current, right? It's
Yeah.
in that particular case I'm talking. Anyway, person left, and on a third day we realized that the money coming in it's much more higher than was that person reported for the years. That was the first clue. The second thing it was person has been put under surveillance, and then of course the Debbie she analyzed the behavior and interviewing everything else.
Mm.
And the person for 3 years was actually ciphering money, like, because it has a control. Because don't forget, Foster has an idea, has imagination, not how to execute,
Mm.
has the knowledge, has the experience, and yet must have a control after the event
Mm.
because it doesn't want to be discovered. And that's the downfall. They have no exit strategy. And when I realized that this is the person I should look for, everybody told me, Mario, but this guy is employee of the year after year after year. It's like, well, that's wrong. It's like,
Ooh.
nobody's that good. Nobody's that good. And I had a sort of interpersonal disagreement with the CEO, and eventually he agreed, and I said like, look, that's what's happened. Anyway, the downfall was like a couple $1 million per month,
Ooh.
and they were successfully recovering about 70% for the money. Everything else was being
Mm.
gone on gambling. So every fraudster has a signature, every fraudster has a need, and every fraudster wants to be in control, not just prior event, but after event as well. And as I say, like that's their downfall. Because
Mm.
in downfall, that's what it is when they're protecting, they hide, to try to hide their tracks and everything else. And that's what we call in preliminary investigation. And we're teaching these corporations to act on a investigate on a information being received. No, don't ignore every information, but there's an aspect how you can investigate this information in a short period of time without involving so much assets or the money or the man hours, whatever necessary
Yeah.
to complete normal investigation, preliminary investigation. You get small piece of information and you
Mm.
act on this. And if it's
Yeah.
truthful, pursue. If it's not, put into that drawer called
Yeah.
modus operandi system, and you can use it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that client was recovering like a lot of money, but for the years has been suffered a lot of money
Gosh.
as well.
Yeah.
Was a bank. Yeah.
Mario, in the case of fraud at that level, is there usually a reason? Is there usually a reason like gambling or vindictiveness, or there's always got to be a reason, hasn't there? It's never just because it was accessible, is it?
Okay, it's always come to the motive. And
Yeah.
motive. It's always it's different for every person. Everybody has a reasons for something else. Sometimes you can see the fires in some companies, and every time I see the fire, I always suspicious and say like, yeah, well, that doesn't make a sense. But usually the fires are the best. Fire and the flood, unfortunately, I must say flood, and I know you're going to flood, but you know how the flood works. I mean, this is the best uh, ways to cover your tracks, right? In a fire and a flood.
Ah. Yeah.
So every time I see some fire, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
It's just been burned. The office where the money is, or the
Yeah.
documents it is. So motive vary from person to person, but it's always this financial gain, right? And then you have
Okay.
let's just say, generally speaking, and then you have other aspect of the fraud. Sometimes the fraud has been committed actually to damage the clients, particularly in industrial espionage.
Yes.
But
Yes.
when you hide a person, and always come back to the point, all problems come to the door. And if the company has no due diligence, background checks, processes on the
Uh huh.
place, they're gonna attract some some people who want to do this. Now back to the industrial espionage, the competitor is gonna hire the person who's already inside the company to
Mm.
do deliberate damages on the things. And now that's what I say to you, Tony.
Yes.
Deception is very important in defending your interests.
Yes.
So deception is not illegal. You're just using your
Yeah.
methods to not disclose to your competitor true aim of your key
Mm.
objective, what it is, right?
Mm.
So the people inside the company, they believe and know, so they've been hired by competitors, and they doing the damages to slow down the processes of reaching new product market and everything else. So like, yes,
Yeah.
it's a variety. That's what we're teaching.
It's-
That's what we're teaching through
Yeah.
tactical operational strategic intelligence, those elements and the forces, how the forces act. And as we head into more recession or more inflation, more fraud's going to happen.
I was going
More,
to say it's more likely, isn't it? So,
yes,
if there's ever a time for anyone listening, particularly businesses, just get in touch with Mario and the team at Insight Intelligence. And then, secondly, Mario's Insight Intelligence Institute has amazing courses covering all things intelligence. And they're wonderful courses, world renowned courses, and Mario and his team run them globally. So I encourage you to jump onto insightintelligence.com, the home of where you can find out about these amazing courses, and you can connect with Mario. If you're a business and you've got a horrible feeling that something's just not right, that the business was doing well and now it's doing bad and you can't work out where the money's going, call Mario and the team, because they are the ones that will help you find out the information, and then we'll walk you through the process to get legal rectification of those issues. Mario, it's been a wonderful show again. I can't believe it's gone so fast. I've just looked at my questions, thought, oh, I didn't ask that, but that's okay.
That's okay, Toni. That's okay, Toni. Thank you.
The purpose was, of course, to talk about the wonderful courses that you've developed and run with your team, how important they are to everyday citizens and businesses, and anyone who's interested in getting this training. Connect with Mario and the team. A quick shout out about your books. Blood-Soaked Soil is a fantastic listen and an equally fantastic read. I encourage you to jump on and buy a copy of Mario's book, Blood-Soaked Soil. It's fantastic. Mario, safe travels home. Enjoy training in Dubai, and we will see you back in Australia soon for our last show in the Insight Intelligence series. Please thank Mario Bekes from Insight Intelligence for joining us today from Dubai and sharing his wonderful wisdom and knowledge with us again. Thank you so much, Mario.
Thank you, Toni. Thank you, team, and thank you to all listeners and viewers. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That's your lot for this week. We will be back next week with Mario. Woohoo! Bye for now.
Bye.